or record it. So that is yet another plus about online education. So yeah, they're recorded, and what I usually do is I'll record the session. Then shortly after the session ends, I'll post it on the class page for you guys to watch, and you can fast forward, pause, rewind, that kind of thing. So just keep an eye out on the class page for an announcement. And so here's the thing about these go-to training sessions: they're really, really, really important. When But we understand if you can't attend a live session, that's totally cool. However, please make sure that you at least watch the recording. And the reason is we go over a ton of details. Like, for example, I'll be going over the assignments, 1.4 assignment and the 1.3 assignment, in step by step detail. I'll show you guys some samples, and I'll be throwing out a lot of tips and suggestions on how to best complete them. So if you're kind of foggy about the assignments, this is an awesome tool. So I strongly recommend, make sure, like I said, if you can't attend a live session, it's fine. Just make sure you watch the recording. Cool? Does that make sense? Anyone? All right. Cool. And so yeah, like and spread the word too. If you, as you're meeting your classmates, let them know these. Hey, check out the session, or if you see somebody that came into the session late and they're worried that they missed stuff, say, hey, don't worry, he's recording everything. You'll be able to access it later. Cool. So I'm sorry, I sound horrible, folks. I know. I have that. I have that. This like just an incessant nerdy, nasally sounding voice going for me, and it's yeah, I've grown to deal with it. So it's gotten so bad that my students in the past have called me. They say I sound like a cross between Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon and Ferris Bueller. So I don't know which of the two is more. It's it's a curse, I guess. I don't know. Anywho, yeah, I apologize. I really do apologize about that. I just, yeah, you're stuck with it. I'm sorry. Thanks, Alan. Appreciate that. So, all right, let's check this out. Okay, so now that I have you guys and gals, sorry, I say guys, but I don't mean anything by it. I'm just humans. How's that? Now, now that I have all you humans gathered together, let's let's jump into our first go-to training activity. Everybody ready? All right, cool. So everybody huddle up. Okay, so get your thinking caps on. So the go-to training activity goes like this. It's a question, really, and all you got to do is just write your answer in the chat box. So just write your answer in the chat box. The question is, how many of you have a tattoo? Who has a tattoo? Holy moly. That's a lot. Alan, you can be excused since you don't have any. Rihanna, you too. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I have a pretty horrible sense of humor. No, wow, that's quite a lot though. Quite a lot. Somebody said they had five. Wow. All right. A couple of you guys have five. That's a goal. That is a goal. I don't know what it is, but maybe it was like this for you guys. There's something about when you turn 18. At least that's what it was like for me. Um, when I turned 18, I called up my best friend and I was like, "Hey, today is the day. I'm gonna do it." And he knew exactly what I was talking about. He knew exactly. He knows me. So he's like, "All right, I'll come with you." And we were gonna travel to and back then, this is I'm gonna show my age. But back then, back in the days when I was a wee lad, the the places to find a tattoo parlor weren't there weren't very many in town, and you usually had to like drive a good distance to try to find one. So anyway, we drive to this tattoo parlor, and it's kind of sketchy looking, kind of run down, and that's how they usually were, like back in the day. Excuse me. And so anyway, I walk in there with my buddy, and sure enough, the tattoo artists, they were like these 6'4" towering Harley dudes. And I'll never forget one of them looked at me, and he just kind of like smirked and wanted to, you know, was like, what are you doing here, kind of things. And I asked him, I'm thinking about getting a tattoo, and I asked him the single most redundant question that they get asked every day. What do you think it is? What do you think these guys get asked every day of their job? Exactly, exactly. Anthony Nicholas, you get A's for the day. No, but really. So picture scrawny old Eddie. I'm like, does it hurt? And oh, he almost just lost it, but he composed himself. You could tell he was a businessman, and so he proceeded to share with me some very very insightful information. And I can't do that. I can't do impressions very well, but he was like, "Well, let me tell you how it feels. The outline feels like a cat scratch, and the coloring feels like an eagle claw." No lie, he sounded kind of like that, and I'm thinking, yes, I've been scratched by a cat before, but never an eagle. Doesn't sound too bad though. Yeah, so hook me up. So I just dive into the chair, and you know what doesn't help? It doesn't help that the device that they use, that little drill, it makes the same sound that the dentist's drill makes. You know the one I'm talking about? I hate that sound. I just hate it. And so something must have happened to Eddie's. I don't know what happened to Eddie, but maybe he just went into his happy place, because I just totally zoned out. And the next thing I know, my buddy is like shaking my shoulder, like kind of like wake up. Even though my eyes were wide awake, I was like glossed over completely, and I'm like, what happened? And he goes, dude, look at your face. And I look at my face, and I'm blood red, sweat's pouring down my face. And he's like, should I have him stop? I'm like, no, I think I'll be fine. So I don't know what happened, but all I can tell you, and I don't care who you are or where you get a tattoo, tattoos are so incredibly painful. So painful. Nothing, Alan. I didn't have anything to drink. I was totally sober. But that's the thing. They're just so painful. So 3 hours later, 3 hours later, I he was done. He was done. I was exhausted, but very proud of myself, to have a tattoo, and I was like the first among my friends to get them. Um, but I thought to myself, this is great, but you know, Eddie, you still have one more hurdle, and that's a huge hurdle. You have to make it home without having your mom notice. And does anybody have a Latin mom out there? Any Spanish moms? Anyone? Spanish moms out there? There's something about Latin moms that are, they have like a sixth sense. I don't know what you want to call it, like X-ray vision. Because I was fully clothed. I was like wearing a black shirt with long sleeve, and for some reason, she saw it. She saw it, and she was like, "What is that?" She has a, God bless her. She has a very very thick English accent, but I was like, "Nothing. I'm out of here. I'm gonna be late for a movie, Mom." Yeah, and so of course she noticed it. I don't know how to this day, but something about Spanish moms. But you would have thought that Eddie Tapia had murdered someone. The reaction that my family had was just crazy, screaming, and "You're never gonna amount to anything in your life," and blah blah blah. "We're gonna get it removed tomorrow." And I don't know about if you guys know, but removing a tattoo is almost as painful as getting one. But yeah, they come they've come quite far these days, and they've accepted it. And yeah, so that's my tattoo story. But the cool thing is that, everybody. Well, I shouldn't say everybody, but it's not such a big deal nowadays. Nowadays, even people that you would never suspect have one, they actually have one, or they have a couple, or even you see them so often. You see them around town. You know a buddy that can do it, and it's pretty amazing how far we've come. It's no longer taboo. but yeah, the reason I shared this experience with you is I want you to approach this class in that way. I want you to be thinking in storytelling manner, because what I did with you guys was I shared a presentation, but it was in a storytelling format. So if you recall, I started off with an icebreaker. I started off with a question. I kind of like engaged you guys. I brought out a question for you guys, and I was inviting you to be a part and participate in the story. So whether you had a tattoo or not, you thought about it for a split second. Admit it. You're probably thinking about it right now. But my story had a beginning, my story had a middle, and it had an end as well. But that's all I want you to be thinking about as you begin to kind of like explore different presentations on TED Talk, as you begin to think about like what's to come in the weeks. I will say this. I will say this. In this class, you won't have to stand in front of a live audience for your presentation. It's okay. You can breathe a sigh of relief. I know a lot of people were stressed out, and believe me, I would too. I still get stressed out if I know I'm about to um, do a presentation in front of a live audience. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But these presentations are going to be recorded. You're going to be recording. You're not going to be recording like a video of yourself, but moreover like a narrative, a narration of your voice. So in that sense, it's pretty cool because you can edit. You can if you have um, see what I just did. If you say or or maybe you have a dog named Cujo and he decides to go crazy for some reason, or you have like little rugrats in the back, you can edit those out. So that's pretty exciting. You can tweak it, to your heart's content. And we're going to be that is those presentations we're going to be exploring next week. And the closer we get to that, I'll be throwing out some options and some different types of tools that you'll be able to use. So, but I just wanted to mention that because long are the types of presentations where you have to sit back and watch somebody just like spitting out statistics and just like facts and facts and facts and facts. Those are so dry and boring. You have to use images, powerful images, right? You have to use storytelling to engage your audience. That's the only way to do it. That's the way that you're going to make your presentation become more memorable. All right. Okay, so let's move right along. Let's make sure I'm not. Oh, by the way, if you asked a question in the chat box and I missed it for some reason, please, I do apologize. That's the only bad thing about this tool. The chats, they go by pretty fast, so I try to catch any and all questions. If I happen to miss yours, I apologize. Just hit me up on email, send me an email, and I'm happy to chat about it. Let's see, I do see a question in the chat box as far as a go-to next week. No, there won't be a go-to training next week, but the class, you will have access to your classes and assignments. Cool. All right, let's move right along. So, this is pretty important right here, folks. And I should have some pretty scary music playing, but I don't. So, maybe in the back of your head, just have that the music from Psycho. You know, the shower scene music. I know, spoiler. Sorry, I hate spoilers, but time management is probably one of the single most important ingredients for success in this degree. I kid you not. Like when we talk to the students at the end of the month, nobody ever complains about, oh, this software was a beast to learn. I had such a hard time with this technology. No, everyone says the same thing. They always say that time management. You know, they lost track of time. They procrastinated. They waited until the weekend to start their assignment. Can't stress enough. You have to get this thing under control. Time management. If you have that, everything else is so much more manageable. Cool. And I don't say that to scare you guys. I'm just trying to help. You're freaking me out, Eddie. No, I'm not. I promise. Are you serious, Rihanna? They are so right, especially in this degree program, because you have to think about it. Full Sail is an accelerated program, so each course is 4 weeks long. Each course is a month long, and so in this program, you have assignments due at the end of the week. Um, every week, you have go-to training sessions. You have assigned readings, so you have to be at the top of your game. At the top of your game. But it's just like you got to get in the groove of it. Like everybody has different routines. Everybody does things differently. Just find what works for you, right? Cool, 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 cool. So I'm gonna be throwing some survival tips at you. These are pretty important. Survive, succeed. So yeah, I can't recommend enough starting your assignments first thing in the week. At the very least, what I want you guys to do is fire open the instructions. You don't have to do it right this second, but after the session, just fire that those instructions open, read them over. That way you can get a head start. You can see what you need. Kind of like get organized, right? Allow yourself a full week to work on the assignments. A full week. And never, never, ever start on the weekend. I know I sound very, very scary and threatening in my nerdy nasally voice, but for reals, it's gonna be brutal. You don't need that kind of stress. Trust me. Am I right? You guys have lives. A lot of you have part-time jobs, full-time jobs. A lot of part-time jobs are full-time jobs, right? We got kids, we got all kinds of responsibilities. So just start. If you start on the weekend, it's just so hard because there's a lot to digest, right? Lots and lots and lots. And I can help you a lot better if you reach out to me. Let's say you you're reading over the instructions and some doesn't make sense, or you're experiencing some kind of technical issue, if you reach out to me early in the week, I can help a lot more than if you email me at like Sunday at 2 a.m. Because if you email me at 2 a.m., I might be asleep. I know I'm terrible. Sometimes I sleep. I can't help it. I'm sorry, but for real, just oh, and the other thing is, if you notice as you're going through your assignments on the class page, you should notice that each assignment is weighted differently. You might see an assignment that's weighted at 5%, another 15%, another 20%. Now, I say this simply because, like, let's say one week you're just kind of like you're not in the mood, right? And you're like, you know what? I don't feel like doing this assignment. You know, to heck with Eddie. I don't care what he says. I'm not going to do this assignment. And you miss the assignment, and then you and then you find out that that assignment was worth 20% of your grade. So what happens is it'll ding your average, you know, pretty significantly. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Try never to miss an assignment. You know, that's why I say, you know, open up the assignment as soon as possible. That way, if something happens, you know, because let's face it, folks, life happens, right? All kinds of stuff can happen. But if you're prepared, if you started early in the week, and you'll probably be able to finish it over the weekend. So that's why I always say it's fine if you want to finish it up over the weekend, but never start it on the weekend. That makes sense? Cool. And as I mentioned earlier, you know, check out these go-to training sessions. If you can't make a live session, watch the recording because you'll see that I go over a lot of stuff. And towards the end of this session, I'm going to be going over the 1.4 assignment, the 1.3 assignment. So if you're kind of sketchy on it, like you don't know exactly what to do, you should have a pretty good idea after this session ends. Hang on one sec, folks. One moment, please. All right, folks. I am back. All right. So the thing I wanted to mention, and make sure you're keeping up with the assigned reading. There should be a link for your online books, the Slideology and the Resonate. The reason I say that is it's going to help. Everything is going to make a lot more sense if you're keeping up with the reading, the assignments, my lectures, and trust me, I can always tell who's reading and who's not. Like the second I open up your assignments, I I know who's attending the sessions. So another thing, check the class page every day. Check your email every day. You have probably already received quite a few emails, important emails, like from your online student liaison or financial aid or me. Just it's really important that you just check it. Check it every day. Right? Who's uh who's already spoken to their online student liaison? Oh, awesome. That looks like most of you. Fantastic. So if you haven't spoken to your online student liaison, please, after the session, just call the main Full Sail number. And and just ask them. Just say, My name is so and so. Can you please connect me to my online student liaison? You could do that and also be checking your emails because they might have already sent you an email. Same thing, Seth. Yeah, check your email and give them a buzz. Just call the main number and let them know. Say I haven't I haven't heard anything from my online student liaison. Can you please help me out with that? Right. Um, Alan, good question because my platform might look a little bit different than yours, but as long as you didn't receive an error message as when you uploaded the assignment, then you should be good to go. Yeah, or if you have any doubts whatsoever, like as soon as you upload the assignment, just send me a quick email or a notification. Say, hey, can you see if this went through okay? And I'm happy to check it out. Cool. All right. The other thing, folks, I don't know if you've checked this already, but Lynda.com is should be your new best friend. Has anybody checked it out yet? Every Full Sail student has a free subscription to Lynda, and Lynda it's like a gold mine of high quality video tutorials on basically any and every subject and topic you can think of. Like, okay, anybody in music production in here? Anybody music production, audio production? Oh, awesome, cool. All right, so like say for example, Lynda.com has tons of video tutorials on Logic Pro, um, editing, mixing, mastering. Um, what's another one? Pro Tools. Just a lot of really awesome tutorials on audio production tools and techniques. So I can't I can't recommend enough. You should definitely use lynda.com. Same thing for anybody in graphic design or game design. They have lots and lots of tutorials on the different programs. And that's not all. They also have tutorials on PowerPoint, Keynote, Prezi, Adobe Spark. So like if you're rusty on any of those presentation programs, check out lynda.com. Really, and that's another really awesome thing about online stuff. You can pause, rewind, fast forward. You don't have to. You're not in a campus class where you have to like raise your hand and ask the teacher, "Hey, can you go back 6 slides?" And then all the students start throwing stuff at you because you asked that question. I'm kidding. No, they wouldn't do that. But would be awkward, right? All right. So yeah, definitely check out lynn.com. Why wait till you're like in month 6 or month 8? The more you know now, when you get into those classes, it's going to be so much more enjoyable. And you will have a little edge over the student who's never done that. It's good to have an edge, right? All right. Okay, so I'm throwing this stuff at you guys. Not I know it's a lot, but I don't want anybody to panic. It's more like I'm just giving you kind of a little heads up as far as what's coming down the pipeline. So so like for example, in week 2, next week, next week, you're going to have an assignment that requires you to record your voice. So I say that now, so that you can start, kind of like getting ready. You can make sure that you have a mic and audio recording capabilities, like Audacity. Audacity is a free online audio recording tool. A lot of our students have used it with much success in the past. It's pretty user friendly and cool. I see a couple of you guys used it before. It's like it's a little like GarageBand, but you can edit, you can record, and there's lots of tutorials on YouTube as well. You know, you guys are going to school at a pretty amazing time as far as like all the resources that are available to you guys. There's YouTube, there's lynda.com. But yeah, so that's what's going on in week 2. In week 3, you're going to have your first kind of full-blown official presentation where you're going to use you're not only going to be recording your voice, but you're also going to be including some pictures, some images. So so yeah, again, I'm just saying this to kind of like, little heads up doesn't hurt, right? That way you can check to see if you have a mic. What people do as far as mics go, a lot of students they'll just use the headphones that came with their iPhone or their smartphone, whatever. Some people use their gaming headsets, and that works totally fine. Totally fine. Herman, good question. iMovie. Actually, I for next week's assignment, I actually used iMovie. But yeah, for next week's and in week 3, you're perfectly okay to use iMovie. For this week's assignment, I'll show you guys what program you can use. Cool. Seth, do you mean as far as like mics go? Um, as far as mics go, you can use like any kind of any kind of headphones. That should work just fine. And that's the thing. You don't need to go out and spend thousands of dollars on a Neumann mic. You know, it's you can like I said, your headphones should work just fine. Um, I've seen mics go for as little as $6 at Best Buy or those electronic shops. But yeah, um, so so yeah, for week 3, you got some time. For week 3, you're not going to be filming yourself. You're just going to be making a presentation where you have an audio narration along with kind of like a slideshow with images, and you'll be able to use tools like PowerPoint, Keynote, Prezi, Adobe Spark, right? And speaking of presentation programs, you can um, who's activated their Office 365 account? Oh, awesome! You guys are so on top of things. This pleases me, but that's good. Good. Okay, so the cool thing about that is now that you've fired up the Office 365 account, you got Microsoft Word, you got PowerPoint, you got Excel, right? So if you want to use those programs, you can. So that's pretty cool. And if you haven't activated it yet and you're having any kind of issue, just call FSO support, please. They usually handle. That's weird, Alan. Oh yeah, definitely you want to give FSO support a call and just let them know what's going on. They should be able to help you out with that. If you need something right away, though, like let's say you're trying to activate Office 365 and you can't, and you've called and you can't get through for whatever reason, um, you can use Google Docs. That's totally fine. Google Docs. Anybody use that? So just type in Google Docs or Google Drive. Anybody use that? Google Docs is kind of like a quick and dirty version of Microsoft Word. It's a free cloud-based program online. Here, let me type it in. Google. I'm going to type in Google Drive. So Google Drive has Google Docs, and it also has Google Slides. And Google Slides is just kind of like it's kind of like PowerPoint. It's not as fancy, but yeah. And the only reason I suggested that Google Drive and Google Docs is if you can't contact FSO support and you can't use Office 365 ASAP and you need something ASAP, that should do the trick. At least for this assignment, it should do the trick. All right. So yeah, and Adobe Spark is another pretty cool program. It's a presentation program that a lot of students have used, and it's free. Free is good. Oh, cool. Seth has used it. Yes. Yeah, a lot of students have used it with some excellent results. Really user friendly. Right? Free is amazing. Yeah. So these programs, yeah, you could. And as far as finding them, it's basically just type in Adobe Spark in your in your Google browser or whatever, and it'll pop right up. So as far as I want you guys to just, if you have a question, if you're working on an assignment and you have a question, let's say after the session, something occurs to you and you have or you forgot to ask a question, yeah, just email me. I'm happy to chat. Etapia at fullsail.com. We are definitely here to help, right? But again, you want to make things as easy for yourself as possible, and definitely don't start on the weekend, and that will just make your life miserable. Put it this way, if you start on the weekend, I hope your phone has a really sturdy case to it, because you're going to be hurling your cell phone across the room a lot, a lot, a lot of scream into pillow moments if you start over the weekend. You know what I mean? Very frustrating. Good question, Miriam. Did I pronounce your name right? Miriam, Miriam, Miriam. I'm gonna Mary. I'm sorry. I hate mispronouncing names. People mispronounce my name all the time. It will be a challenge indeed. Yes, as far as 40 hours a week. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. But again, you can do it. It's as long as you tame the beast called time management. But anywho, let's talk about some copyright free materials and where to find them. So, like, for example, for your 1.4 assignment, which I am going to be going over with you guys shortly, just give, give, me a, give me a few minutes. I appreciate your patience. So, for your 1.4 assignment, you're going to need some visuals. You're going to need to throw in some pictures and whatnot. So, a couple places where you can find copyright free images are Creative Commons, archive.org, Comfite. And you can screenshot this. Don't forget, this whole thing is recorded. So if you miss something, fear not, because this recording will be available um, after the session. Cool, right? And dun dun dun. Please proofread all your work, folks. This is college. So here's the thing: maybe you've typed in a fragment in this chat box. Maybe you didn't capitalize the beginning of your sentence in this chat box. That's fine. As long as I can understand what you're saying, I'm not gonna. I don't dock points as far as punctuation in the chat box goes. However, in the discussion boards, anything graded, anything graded, please make sure you're proofreading your work. All right. And if you haven't checked it out already, Full Sail's got a pretty cool library. I'm sorry, writing center in their library. Right? So check it out. That's not a bad habit, Corey, actually. It's almost like, as studio engineers, filmmakers, writers, anything that you're making, you know, any kind of like artistic project, you almost need to do that. You almost need to be OCD, check and recheck and recheck and recheck. That's the way to do it. It's a good habit. All right. So professionalism, we just want everybody to, hold a high degree of professionalism. Whether you're writing something on a discussion board or interacting with your classmates or teacher, it's these are just good professional habits to get into for when you graduate. And let's take a look at these two awesome books that we have for you guys. One of them is called Resonate, and the other is Slideology. And this is the author, Nancy Duarte. If you haven't already, once you check out her TED Talk video, you'll understand why she is an expert in her field. The second I watched her, she was like she's a born speaker. She's very very natural on stage, very conversational. But what really kind of like sold it to me was the way that she interacts with her audience. She's very authentic. She's very personable. She's not, I'm sure in the past or maybe for me, I've watched a lot of TED Talk presentations where there was just kind of like a wall between the audience and the speaker, and they were just something very kind of chilly about them. They were almost too professional, too almost scientific. Yeah, she is definitely charismatic, and it's a good quality to have as a presenter. Um, but yeah, the cool thing about these books that separates them from your typical presentation book, your typical public speaking book, is that she approaches the whole presentation topic in a storytelling manner. She encourages you to use the storytelling format, the beginning, the middle, the end. So don't just like, you know, throw facts and statistics at your audience. Take them on a journey. Take them on an adventure. Hence the storytelling premise, right? It also, as far as making presentations, this is all about um, we're not using bullet points. We're not using like a huge wall of words on our slides and on our presentations. Hence the word creative presentation. We're using evocative images. That is the only way that's going to set yourself apart from somebody else that's making a presentation. Use images that the audience will remember, right? Okay, so like for example, when we're using images, look at this one. This is what we're aiming for. Notice how this image fills up the entire slide, right? Notice that I don't have a lot of words on here, but the words that I do have, they pop, right? They pop out. They're bold. The color is not lost in the background, right? This is what you want to do. This is what you want to aim for. Here's another example. Again, notice how the image fills up the entire background. Sparse words, but they're bold. Some colors throughout. Always be thinking about, okay, high quality images. Always be thinking about maximizing the impact of your image. Here's another example. Fill up the slide. Don't use a lot of words. If you do have words on your slides, make sure they're meaningful and purposeful. Make sure they send a message. All right. So activity number 2. Now I'm gonna read a quote to you guys. I want you to think about this quote. Think about the quote, and just give me 1 second. Okay, so education is the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel. All right, remember this quote. Now watch what I'm going to do. Notice the image that I have in the background. Notice the relationship now that it has with the quote. Now, in your own words, I want everybody to tell me, what do you guys think? What kind of tone does it evoke to you guys? There's no right or wrong. Just tell me what you immediately think. Do you think it works well with the image? Do you think that they're matched well together? What kind of mood does it give? What do you think? Anyone? Okay, good. Baroque music. Kind of, yeah, kind of like, I would say it does definitely give a kind of a lofty flavor. You know what I mean? Kind of scholarly flavor. Anybody else? Okay, thought provoking. All right, good, good, good. Historical, excellent, excellent. Flame is inspiration. The people around look inspired by it too. Excellent, excellent observation. These are good. Very good. All right. These are good. Thank you, folks. Now, all right, remember the quote. Now, watch what I'm going to do. Check this out. Hold on. This is the same exact quote, but notice the image. What do you think? What mood does it evoke for you guys? What tone? Ah, okay, cool. Corey likes this one better. You think it fits better, right? What else? What else? What do you guys think? Excellent. Education is everywhere, no matter the location. Excellent, excellent. Gives a sense of hope. It's inspirational. I see what you mean. It is in a way it is kind of depressing, but it's at the same time it's hopeful, you know? You know what I love about this? Nicholas, yeah, absolutely. One of the things, one of my favorite kind of qualities about this image is that you don't necessarily need to know the story behind this image, behind this picture, to know that there is a story. You know what I mean? I love that. Absolutely, Ashley. It does prove pictures are worth 1,000 words. Yeah. And it does suggest that these children, that they're, they will go to great lengths to get their education. It's that important to them, right? I love it. I love it. So, but notice that how dramatically different this this image pairing was compared to the first one I showed you. Pretty different, right? That's how important it is. So when you're thinking about your images, when you're on Google or whatever you use, whatever image database, don't just look for the first image that pops up. Really be thinking about, okay, which image is going to send the most impact, which is going to be the most emotional, right? Absolutely, Nicholas. Yeah, very good quote, Casey. They won't put their education on hold to wait for a building. Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you, folks, for these are so insightful. I love these responses. All right, now check this out. Watch this. Ready for it? Hang on to your seats. Watch this. Boom. Huh? I couldn't help myself. Okay, so some of us know. Some of us know. Okay, a couple, quite a few. But what do you think? Let me ask you. What do you think about the what mood? It's the same exact quote, right? Excellent mood. I think for me, absolutely, Alan. Alan just nailed it. It's definitely more comedic, and even if you don't know the movie, there's just something very lighthearted about their expressions. You look at their clothes; they have kind of like a goofy expression on their face, right? It's definitely much. It doesn't have the gravity that the first two did, especially the second one. I have to say the second one is my favorite with the children on the under the freeway. This one is much more comedic, but I do this activity to show you guys the power of how important it is to choose the right image. Make sure it's a high quality image because nobody wants to look at a blurred image, right? It needs to be high quality. It needs to be evocative. It needs to be powerful. It needs to have like to be able to send a strong emotional message that's gonna really kind of grip your audience. So when they're done watching your presentation, there's no forgetting that, right? So as I shared with you guys in the very beginning, that tattoo story, your presentations, your stories need to be told in that format. It needs to have a beginning, it needs to have a middle and an end. Even if and there's don't get me wrong, there's books, there's movies out there that start the opening starts with the very end, but that in essence is the beginning because it's going to make its way to the end inevitably. All right? All right, so let's talk about your homework, your 1.3 and 1.4. Hang on one second. Hang on. cancel out of here. You guys still there? Okay, cool. Thank you for your patience, folks. All right, so let's talk about no, let's talk about this instead. Your presentation history. So this is your discussion assignment. Discussion assignment. Your first one. Okay, so I'm going to briefly go over the instructions. So, couple of key things to always do for each discussion. Number one, always proofread. Always proofread. That's why I always like to recommend maybe first write it on a Microsoft Word document. That way you can edit it and save it and, use the old spell check. Second thing, in each discussion, you're going to see a series of prompts, a series of questions. You want to make sure that you answer them completely in as much detail as possible. So, like, say, for example, the first question here, describe your level of comfort delivering presentations. Are you fearful or completely comfortable? And explain why. If you have fears, what would make you feel more at ease? The next one, discuss a public speaking experience you remember. Was it good or bad? What did you learn from this experience? So some of us may not have had a real honest to goodness formal kind of presentation where you were at the podium in front of a classroom or a group of people. And that's fine. But I still need you to tell me, how do you think you would do? What is the idea of a presentation? Does it kind of stress you out? Do you think you'd be fine with it? Right? So what I also like to suggest, I would shoot for at least a couple of paragraphs for the first post. A couple of paragraphs should really, knock out the questions and the prompts in detail. Also, what would you like to learn from the class? What do you think you need to improve upon in your presentation skills? So that's the first part of your discussion, and that is due when? When is the first part of your discussion? Absolutely, tomorrow night, folks. So I say first part, so the second part of your discussion is due Sunday. And so what that is that is when you write reply posts to your classmates. Right? So reply to at least 2 classmates. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be replying to something that they posted. And I like to suggest just a couple of sentences for the reply posts. 2 paragraphs for the first post, for your initial post, and then when you're replying to a classmate, a couple sentences. Definitely you want to do something a lot more than just say, hey, that's cool, or hey, I agree, or hey, you're wrong. That's just me. But yeah, a couple sentences. So at least 2 classmates respond to one of their comments. Maybe give them some suggestions, or if they had a tough time with a certain presentation and you did well, share a tip with them, right? The idea is to get to know your classmates, to engage, kind of spark a conversation. So when are the reply posts due? Sunday. Yes. Absolutely. And yeah, that's pretty much it, folks, for your discussion assignment. It's pretty straightforward. Like I said, the main objectives that you want to do are always answer the prompts. All of the prompts. You're never just going to have one question to answer in a discussion. You're going to have a couple of questions. Cool. And please proofread. All right, enough of that. Let's talk about the professional analysis assignment. This is your 1.4 assignment. Right? I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Brilliant words. Maya Angelou, yes. Right. Okay, so let's talk about the 1.4 professional analysis. So this assignment is kind of like there's a couple of steps to it, but the idea is you're going to go to the TED Talk website. TED Talk website. And we even provided the link here. And you're going to analyze 3 different presentations. You're going to analyze 3 different presentations. And you're going to be answering questions like this. Why was the presentation powerful or moving? What did you like about it? Was it the content or was it the speaker? What made the content appealing? Was it relatable? How did the speaker draw you in? And so on. So that's the first part, okay? So the first part, you're going to be watching 3 different presentations, and it can be any TED Talk presentation that you want. Okay, anybody in game design in here? Any game art students, game design? Anybody? Okay, cool. So let's say, for example, you go on the TED Talk website and you're looking for some presentations on video games. So there is a search button on the TED Talk website. If you type in video games, you'll get like at least a dozen different presentations on video games. Same thing, music. And I had a couple of students in here with audio production and music production. You can do the exact same thing. Type in music, and you'll get a ton of TED Talk presentations on music. And so on. You just type in the topic that you want to see. So pick 3 different presentations. Analyze each one. And then you are going to create a document with images, with pictures. You're going to write a short analysis for each one. Just kind of like a summary. Tell me what it's about. And then the last thing you're going to do is you're going to conclude your assignment with your own list of 10 qualities that made the presentation you watched inspiring, captivating, creative, and effective. So in other words, this last part, after you're done watching all 3 presentations, jot down 10 qualities that you thought were really what made the presentations good. All right, who wants to see an example? All right, I'm going to show you guys Eddie's Quick and Dirty sample. Good question, Alan. Give me 1 second. I'm going to get right to that. All right. Okay, so check this out. Here is my Quick and Dirty. Now, you can, I definitely recommend, making it more fancy than this. This is just the meat and potatoes of what you need. So first thing, and I hate to sound obnoxious about this, but you would be surprised how many people don't include their name at the top of the page. So let's make sure we write our name at the top of the page. All right, so let's write our name and today's date. what's the 27th? Yes. And I need the exact title of the assignment. So in this case, it would be 1.4, right? Okay, so here's what I did, folks. So number one, the first presentation that I chose was called Why I Live in Mortal Dread of Public Speaking. Can you guys see this? This is one of my favorite presentations. Okay, cool. So here's what I did. I included the title of the presentation. Title was Why I Live in Mortal Dread of Public Speaking. Next thing I did, I included the name of the presenter, Megan Washington. Then I included the link. Very, very important. Next thing you need to do, analyze that presentation. So here, include a short analysis. What was this presentation about? Right? Then I included an image. So what I did was I went online and I just typed in Megan Washington TED Talk, and it gave me a bunch of different options. So here's my visual imagery. I included a picture. So now remember, we have to analyze 3 different TED Talks. So I still need to do that 2 more times. So moving down, next one, title of presentation, blah, 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 blah. Name of presenter, include the name of the presenter, and don't forget to include the TED Talk link. Cool? Then, a brief summary about what that presentation was about. After that, include an image, a relevant image. Last, I got one more to go, right? Same thing. Title of presentation, name of presenter, include the TED Talk link, my brief analysis of the presentation, and an image. Last thing, remember you got to include a top 10 list of presentation qualities. So I only need 10 of these, not 30, 10 in total. So by this, what you got to do is after you watch all 3 presentations, come up with your own list of qualities that you think are important in a presentation. Let's say after you watch the presentation, you're like, you know what, I think sense of humor is really important. Jot down sense of humor, but you're not done. Explain what you mean. What do you mean by sense of humor? Who had a sense of humor? Right? J.J. Abrams had a sense of humor when he said blah, 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 blah in his presentation. Jane McGonigal was very funny when she was talking in her presentations and said this at minute 2:23 or whatever. See what I mean? Second quality, props. I think it's important to use props in a presentation because it sparks an interest in your audience and so on. Explain and provide an example. Another quality, passion. You don't have to use these that I have right here. I'm just showing you guys examples. Does that make sense? So all you need to do is list out 10 qualities, explain what you mean by them, and that's it. Yes, yes, Jermaine. Um, yeah, so like after the session, or let me back up a little bit. As I mentioned before, this whole session is being recorded. So yeah, after the session, I'm gonna be throwing it up there, um, or uploading. That sounds better than throwing up. Uploading. I will be uploading this recording onto the class page. So just keep an eye out for an announcement, and that's where it will be. Let's see here. So Word is the dirty version of how to do this assignment PowerPoint. Very good question, Nicholas. I would recommend doing this in a program such as Microsoft Word or Pages or or if you don't have either one of those, you can use Google Docs. Google Docs is free, simply because you're going to be analyzing things, and it's easier to spread it out. It's easier to see. That makes sense. And, now this whole sample is going to be available online. So unfortunately, I can't email it. But this is it. This is how. This is just one example of how you do it. Now, you can include more pictures. That would be great. You can make borders around the document. That would be cool too. Color it up, include some color, spice it up, right? But this is essentially the meat and potatoes. I will need to see the title of the presentation. I will need to see the name of the presenter. I will need to see the link. I need to see an analysis for each of the presentations that you watched, right? And last but not least, your list of top 10 qualities with examples. What do you think? Anybody? So, is this pretty clear? Okay, cool, cool, cool. Looks like it's all right, cool, cool. Yeah, so that's why one of these that's one of the reasons why these go-to training sessions are really important. Students often tell me that it really just kind of like clears things up, as far as the assignments go. I know for me personally, like when I'm working on or learning a new software, I don't mind reading through a manual, but it's nice to hear somebody kind of walk you through it. You know what I mean? But yeah, so so there it is. That is the 1.4 assignment. So again, you can watch any three presentations that you want. Any three. Analyze each one. Throw some pictures in there and include your list of top 10 qualities. Cool. All right. I'm so glad to hear that, folks. Okie dokie. Let's get back. Okay, so just a little review. Yeah, the reason why I don't recommend, something like PowerPoint for this, for the 1.4 assignment, is because it's not really a presentation. It's more like an analysis. So PowerPoint is totally cool for next week or for week 3, but for this it's much better to use something like Word or Pages or Google Docs. Um, Okie dokie. So okay, yeah. Sorry, folks. Um, all right. So your homework 1.3, 1.4 assignments. Also, I would really like and I strongly recommend that you guys start, just start experimenting with different presentation tools like PowerPoint or Keynote or Adobe Spark. Just start playing around with them. Um, you will thank yourself. You will be so glad that you did, but because you're going to start, realizing that the weeks will fly by. Adobe Spark is free, absolutely, absolutely. Um, don't forget, there's also Audacity. Audacity is that free online recording program. Really awesome. Make sure you got a mic or headphones that have a mic on them. And don't forget about lynda.com. Lynda.com is a pretty fantastic website. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but Now, the way to access lynda.com is you gotta first go to FS Connect. Go to FS Connect first, go to the Full Sail Library, and once you're in the library, there is where you should see lynda.com. That's the only way to access it for free because, like if you just go to Google right now, type in lynda.com, it would probably try to charge you. So I don't want anybody to do that. Cool? Let's see here. Yeah, Tremaine, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get all these questions. I'm sorry, folks. Yeah, a lot of these programs. The only program that's not for that is specifically for Mac is Keynote or Pages. But like programs like Adobe Spark or PowerPoint or Prezi, you can use them on PCs. Exactly, Nicholas. No audio necessary for the 1.4 or the 1.3 assignment. You won't need to worry about audio until next week's. Yeah. All right, folks. Well, folks, I'm so sorry we went over the time. We went over, but I wanted to go over those samples with you and make sure you got everything you needed. Thank you so much for your participation. You guys were really sharp today, really on point. Really looking forward to working with everyone. All right, get cracking on those assignments. Time management. All right, I am Addy here, folks. Don't forget, please email if you have any questions at all. All right, you take care. Have a wonderful day. My pleasure. My pleasure.